Roller coaster of a race, so many emotions, tears as Felipe Massa. It was his last ever Brazil Grand Prix. There was frustration with the weather, and there was just joy and excitement, as you can see with this picture. I don't want to spoil it too much because I want to talk about the entire race, but Max Verstappen, wow. If Rosberg won this race, then Lewis Hamilton would not be the world champion, it would be Nico Rosberg. And I'm not going to spoil it, so we're going to go through the entire race and yeah. So very wet weather conditions in Interlagos. That was predicted, it was forecasted, and that weather really throws a surprise around this track. I'd like to know from you your driver of the day in the comment section below. I'll let you know mine at the end of this video. And of course it is Felipe Massa's last ever Brazilian Grand Prix, so lots of emotions running high. I don't know if any of you have seen his helmet design, it is absolutely incredible. So that's his helmet design for this weekend, really beautiful. Because of the incredibly wet weather conditions, Romain Grosjean, actually on the way to his grid, did crash on the formation lap. He had such a fantastic qualifying session in P7 and he couldn't even start the race because of what happened. So then there was a debate about standing starts or a safety car start, and it was pretty split. Some drivers said safety car start, some said a standing start. It was indeed a safety car start for the race, and yep, it pretty much took its time, and the visibility was very low, drivers complaining about aquaplaning, but Carlos Sainz and Kevin Magnussen were two of the first drivers that said, you know what, it's okay to go racing, but the visibility is obviously very difficult in those conditions. After 6 laps, the safety car came in, and Kevin Magnussen went into the pits, and he actually put on the intermediate tyres, which is wow, that's quite a gamble. And also the fact that there was just so much spray and the visibility was very difficult, but Kevin Magnussen pulled out an incredible overtake on Kimi Raikkonen, so really looked like he could have upset the championship after those little talks that Jos Verstappen was actually called by Toto Wolff. Very interesting that. And a double stack for Williams as Sebastian Vettel went for a spin, aquaplaning across, and he was facing the wrong way on a part of the track that is just, I mean, that was scary, especially the fact that Nico Hülkenberg was just coming towards him. So he did manage to carry on. He went into the pits, put the inters on, and was on his way again. Felipe Massa and Esteban Gutierrez were under investigation for overtaking under the safety car, and just as that happened, Marcus Ericsson on the inters actually did crash out, and he actually stayed on the pit lane entry, which Max Verstappen actually wanted to get into the pit, so he had to sort of go onto the green part of it, and then the pit lane entry was actually closed, but Daniel Ricciardo still went in. So big chance that he could have got a penalty, but the safety car was deployed for this incident, and of course there was a big part of Marcus Ericsson's front wing missing, which also had to be cleared as well. Lewis Hamilton also did ask what tyres Marcus Ericsson was on, and he did say of course the inters, but you can see here that quite a few drivers were gambling and on the intermediate tyres. Both the Mercedes did not want to go on those tyres, they felt it was way too early. Kimi Raikkonen had a huge crash just as the safety car came in, and unfortunately that left him out of the race, but it was good to see that he was okay. The Red Bull almost went along as well, but yeah, you know, this was on full wet, and so with all the debris on track as well, it was a red flag. And of course the fact that he was on full wets and that happened, you know, is probably another reason to bring out the red flag as well. Now, keeping in mind that Sauber and Manor are in a battle for the constructors, the constructors, not the championship, but they're still in the battle for position, especially given that Manor have scored a point. So at this point it was Felipe Nasr in P7, I believe, and also Esteban Ocon in P9. So this is really a day in which you can capitalise and try and score points. Lewis Hamilton actually had some water coming through his helmet. He actually wasn't the only one. Esteban Ocon also complained about that on his radio, so it turns out a lot of drivers did have a very similar issue, and Nico Rosberg's helmet was also being looked at as well when there was the red flag. Nico Hülkenberg had a bit of Kimi Raikkonen's Ferrari debris stuck on his front wing. Esteban Ocon was also incredibly close to Kimi Raikkonen as well. Just fantastic driving skills by both Hülkenberg and Ocon to not crash into him or clip him. The race was back underway as the safety car was still out, but unfortunately the weather was so bad and still very wet, heavy rain that I think it was on Force India's radio. They said 50 minutes of this weather, which is quite a lot, and there were still talks of maybe half points being given. Nico Hülkenberg, who had an incredible Brazil Grand Prix 2012 and of course goes really incredibly well around this track, he also does very well in the wet weather conditions. He looked like he had a really good chance for a really good result, even maybe a podium here. But unfortunately he did get a rear puncture, and so he had to come into the pits, and that dropped him back down the field quite significantly, which is, again, I just feel like he might be just so cursed off a podium or something. It's just really frustrating. Drivers said the track was fine, but the second red flag made an appearance, and that was pretty much that. So we're talking lap 29 safety car, which, I mean, lap 29 out of 71, and so much time having gone past already. I mean, I'm sure, you know, the crowd were feeling very frustrated. It didn't actually last too long. Lap 32 was when the race got underway, and Max Verstappen actually passed Nico Rosberg for P2. He made so many good overtaking maneuvers. I mean, really was my driver of the day. I'm just going to spoil that right now. You just can't, I can't explain it, you know. We've seen this before so many times. This year he's come under a lot of scrutiny for some of his moves, but he has this incredible skill, and I know for a fact that people around the world, and of course in Brazil, were probably just watching in awe. It was incredible to watch him. He almost did go into the barriers in lap 39. He kind of went off a little bit, and he also did say my heartbeat went a bit higher there. So how he kept it out of the barriers, I don't know. It must be his driving skill, but those weather conditions looked very difficult to drive in. Some very good battles, including Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel, Esteban Ocon and Nico Hülkenberg. Nico Rosberg also had an almost heart in the mouth moment. He almost had a spin. It was like a half spin, I guess. Lap 48, another safety car. This is the Grand Prix of safety cars. Felipe Massa had a crash. This, of course, was his last ever Brazilian Grand Prix or Brazil Grand Prix, and lots of emotions. I cannot really accept that this is going to be his last ever Brazilian Grand Prix. It's just so weird to think about, and the farewell that he got was just truly spectacular. And of course his emotions after the race, if you saw the post-race interviews, you know, he was trying so hard to just hold it in, but of course showing his tears. He's a very passionate person. Even when he lost the championship to Lewis Hamilton back in 2008, you know, he is a very emotional person. And it's just so wonderful to see that. And of course wishing him all the very best with his life after Formula One. Of course, he got such a wonderful response from the crowd as well, and lots of people in the pit lane, and of course the Ferrari mechanics. There was even more rain around lap 55, I believe it was. Let me just check. Yep, lap 55. Lap 56, they were still racing. Alonso went for a spin as well. Another heart in the mouth moment. There were plenty of these on Sunday afternoon for sure. Esteban Gutierrez was not a happy bunny after he actually retired from the race. It was an electronics issue that they were going to investigate after the race. He looked like he had had enough of just about everything. He didn't want to talk to Günther Steiner, he didn't want to he threw his gloves, and obviously very frustrated. He was talking to Manisha Kaltenborn, and there was a photograph that had emerged. He is not going to be at Haas next season. He's not going to be at Renault next season. He basically isn't going to be at Force India either. He is one of those drivers that may not have a seat for next season. His point statistics don't look very good. He's only scored in one race that he has actually well, scored in. I think he started over 50 races. It could be 60 by now. I'm not really 100% sure, but he's only scored in one. And there were potential other, there have been other opportunities this season for him to score in. The one that he has scored in was in 2012 when he was Nico Hülkenberg's teammate, which is a long time ago, and that was at Sauber. So he was actually spotted talking to Manish Kaltenborn, but I don't think he's going to be on the grid next season personally, even though he brings a lot of backing. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling on about him. Anyways, Verstappen kept going at it with his moves, and Sebastian Vettel, he said he pushed me off track, so he was complaining about that. But I don't think we really heard anything too, Mexico Grand Prix-ish from Seb this time round. So your winners, ladies and gentlemen, was Lewis Hamilton. A fantastic win for him, and a nice amount of mutual respect between both of them. It's gone down to Abu Dhabi now, and that's where we're going to see our new title be crowned, even though they don't get a crown, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it didn't happen in Brazil. It's gone all the way down to Abu Dhabi. If this was the last race of the calendar of the season, it would have been ridiculously crazy to also get a champion out of it too. But obviously Abu Dhabi is the last one. But yeah, it totally reminded me and went back to Brazil 2012 and also Canada 2011, a couple of crazy races where a lot happened. So let's take a look at the rest of the standings as well. Okay, going to start at the back of the grid. So you had one driver, Romain Grosjean, who did not start the race. 5 other retirements: Gutierrez, Massa, Palmer, Raikkonen and Ericsson. And then you had Jenson Button, Pascal Wehrlein, Hubert Dean, you had Magnussen, Daniel Kvyat, who of course came together with Jolyon Palmer. It was Palmer's fault from what I saw. Esteban Ocon, P12, and then Valtteri Bottas just outside of the points. It was not a good day for Williams at all. They are in the battle for 4th place in the Constructors with Force India, and Force India got a double points finish. Very, very strong finish indeed. And then you've got Fernando Alonso, who got the last World Championship point. Felipe Nasr, this is very, very interesting and incredibly important. He got 2 points, and Manor has 1 point right now, which takes them ahead of Manor in the Constructors' Championship battle. And what this means is, of course, if they finish ahead of Manor, Sauber, then they get that extra 30 million, which is incredibly valuable to Sauber. And of course, on top of that, it means that every single team has now scored this season, which I think for Formula One is a fantastic thing. It's been a while since that's last happened. I think maybe 2009, I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then you had Daniel Ricciardo, P8, not the best day for him. Nico Hülkenberg, again, P7 is great, but again, he could have I feel like he could have been on the podium had he not had that puncture and issues which dropped him back significantly. I genuinely think that he is cursed for a podium. I just don't know, every time he gets close to one, something happens. But talk about Carlos Sainz, absolutely fantastic for him to finish in P6, really, really fantastic. This is a race where you could have just totally capitalised on points. Then you have Sebastian Vettel, P5, but Perez, wow, absolutely incredible for him. Obviously very close to Max Verstappen as well, but fantastic result, P4 for him. And then Verstappen, P3, really well deserved. He made incredible overtaking manoeuvres. And then, of course, you have Nico Rosberg and then Lewis Hamilton. A fantastic win for Hamilton. And I believe all Nico Rosberg has to do to win the championship is to finish on the podium, I believe. I think that's correct. So let's see what happens. It's gone down to Abu Dhabi. It's going to be very exciting. And it's going to finish with a duel in the desert. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think about this race? Should they have just got on with it in certain parts where the drivers said, you know what, we can just get on with it? Or